Hey guys, Clef here, still sick, also my third time shooting this review, so I decided to approach it differently. I broke it in 10 categories that I'll put on screen. As I go through each of them, you will occasionally see another device broken down the exact same way on screen. I added this comparison element to provide context as to how I rate the Odin 2 Mini's different layers. That's not to imply that I will be talking about those other devices in this video. For the most part, I won't. That is why I strongly encourage you to ask me any questions you may have, and I'll be happy to elaborate why. For example, I find the screen on the RG556 to be better than the one on the 2 Mini. So without further ado, hi, I'm Clef and you're watching GameTech Talk. Quick disclaimer, this product was shipped ahead of time by AYNTEC in exchange of a fair review, but all opinions you'll hear coming from me are entirely my own, and no video was shared prior to being made public here on YouTube. Starting with specs, as most may know, the chip inside the Odin 2 Mini is the same as its predecessor, which so happens to be the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. In layman terms, it is overkill for the current landscape of the mobile market, so not only are you getting extremely close to the very best, you easily have a 5 years ahead, if not more. With that also brings the absolute best in terms of emulation. Put it this way, there are better chips in a handful of phones, but the benefits they have over this one also cannot be taken advantage of, at least not currently, with the one exception of Apple pushing for console games on iOS, but logically speaking, the 8 Gen 2 should be capable of similar output only if it was getting the same level of support. But as it is not the absolute best, it felt more fair to make it a 4 out of 5. I may shock a few with the scoring of the panel with that 3 out of 5, so let's get something out of the way. In most case scenarios, is the Odin 2 Mini equipped with a better screen than the Odin 2? Yes, absolutely. Is it a perfect panel? Not even close. The main issue I had with the Odin 2 was the response time. Like, the image was always slightly lagging behind, which apparently not everyone got. I assure you I did. So in that regard, the Odin 2 Mini fixed that issue, but MiniLED not being a perfect technology, it introduced other issues, and the obvious one is local dimming. So here's the thing, when using that screen on mid to full brightness, not a problem at all. It's a positive through and through, but if you intend to play in bed next to your sleeping spouse, that is when that device will disappoint you the most in comparison. Sure, the blacks will be blacker than Odin 2, but your solid colors and edges of brighter areas will also experience color fringing due to the local dimming algorithm that is designed to reduce blooming in darker areas. The other thing, when thinking of, say, the Pimax Portal that suffered also from local dimming issues, we must remember that it also had very unique sets of features that we haven't seen since, like 4K 120Hz. The good news is the Pimax Portal QLED was $600 USD, whereas the Odin 2 Mini is much more affordable and with better controls and with a better chip. To put this chapter to rest, would it be legitimate to experience FOMO due to the MiniLED panel? In my honest opinion, absolutely not, because saying otherwise would be me having placebo, and I don't. This is by no standard a great panel. It's good at best. The audio is kind of a surprise, not necessarily a bad one, not necessarily a great one either. So while it's easy to say that the Odin 2 has better audio, I'd argue that in occasions, the Odin 2 Mini is no slouch either, and I think I figured out what the issue is. So here's the thing. If it plays sounds that are mostly in the lower hertz, it sounds good. Mostly in the mids, sounds good. Mostly high, sounds good. It's whenever you start mixing the spectrum together, which is arguably all the time, all your different ranges are fighting against each other, which makes for a very, very crushed audio experience. That's even the occasional moments when the speaker seems just about to distort but somehow make it past. I don't think the drivers are bad necessarily. I feel like they lack tweaking and they are being overdriven, but if they had the right amplification, they'd sound incredibly better. But I sure can make use of your amplification. If you'd like to be that for me, hit that like, comment, subscribe, let YouTube know that you acknowledge the effort that goes into making this video. And if you already did any of that, please know that I am extremely grateful that you have. Next is, without a doubt, the absolute best of the Odin 2 Mini, and it is its portability. AYNTEC struck a shockingly good balance when it comes to size, weight, and overall footprint. Some might argue that they had heavy inspiration, and let's be real, they sure did, but no other device came as close to the Vita as they have in any possible capacity. They improved over it too. Of course, they took some sacrifices. The battery life isn't as good, but it's not terrible either. I've had a little under 3 hours when I went from 100% to 0% under heavy load. As for the temperatures, the Odin 2 Mini can get warm to the touch, but not uncomfortable. What was particular for me was the way I hold it. It's like I formed this little pocket that would gather warmer air, enough to feel it, possibly to get sweaty hands, which I usually never have, but not enough to ever feel like I need to put it down. Another category that we'll quickly glance over is I/O. Overall, there's better, but what is here works. With a USB-C at the bottom that can effectively be used to dock your Odin 2 Mini, which so happens to work perfectly with AYNTEC's own dock. That gives you two different ways to dock, as you also have a mini HDMI up top. Overall, I was a bit disappointed to notice that the two back paddles were gone, something I hadn't realized until I got the device, but everything is there. I can say I would have preferred the 3.5mm jack up top rather than at the bottom, but it's no big deal. When talking about the build quality, which ties in with portability and ergonomics and buttons that we'll cover next, this is yet another strong aspect of the Odin 2 Mini. It is obviously quality. The shell has a nice feel to it with a very cool sheen that will diffuse any harsh light very nicely. The bezels might be a smidge too large for some people, but seeing as we are on a rather small panel, the ratio makes it that they are not too distracting in my opinion. The device has zero flex, and with the screwless design, it's honestly one of the better looking handhelds I've seen of all 2024. The Odin 2 is no slouch, but in terms of build quality, I definitely upped the antes, and I think I can say with confidence that it will remain top 3 and some of the best handhelds manufactured of the entire year. So the ergonomics are a bit weird for me. I should clarify that I was one of those guys that cramped on the Vita, and when grabbing this handheld, immediately it screams of the device that it was inspired from. But with having the left stick over the D-pad, it immediately gives you a better grip and less stress on my left hand thumb. Would an ergo grip make it better? Most likely, but I can see myself easily using this without ever needing one on the left side. The right side is where it takes a hit. And look, I get this layout, we've seen it a million times, but can I just say that when holding this, it definitely would have made more sense to have the right stick over the face buttons, especially with how capable that device is. I feel like we are far more likely to use them both in the games we play. You can play NES all you want on the Odin 2 Mini, obviously, but it's massive overkill. If you don't intend to play late stages of emulation or native Android games, don't buy this. It's good, but there is just as great for less needy stuff. RG556 comes to mind. But back to what I was saying, the right stick is the other half of this device that doesn't have me convinced in terms of ergonomics. It requires a different hold on the handheld, and one that I can't say I'm too keen on. So if anything, I'd still pursue a comfort grip because of the right side, and that is basically why I gave it 3 out of 5, because if not for that, it would have been a 4 out of 5 easily. As for the buttons, which is another something we'll quickly glance over, it is for the most part an improvement and one of the better feeling devices out there. The D-pad is phenomenal, amazing for fighters, though it's most likely to get you cramped if you do long duration uses of it. The triggers have a bit of dampening feel at the end of the trigger travel, probably not the most aggressive one I've heard, but if you don't like that feel, just know to expect it there. Functionality wise, both the triggers and sticks are very well calibrated. The reason why I gave it 4 out of 5 is, as addressed earlier, the 2 removed back paddles, the right stick discomfort, and the triggers that are far from being unpleasant, but might be an acquired taste for some. That leaves us with the last core, which is value. It's hard to say or see the Odin 2 Mini as having bad value because it is definitely one of the best options out there for anyone looking to buy and not needing another for a couple of years. But in a world where I must consider that the Odin 2 exists, the value proposition does take a hit. You lose 2 buttons, the screen is smaller, so is the battery, but also the main motive for the 2 Mini being the screen is one I feel does not provide enough value to justify those compromises. In fact, I will say that if not for portability, I would have probably been disappointed for having paid for a unit as an Odin 2 owner. Which brings me to my conclusion. Am I happy to have paid out of pocket for the Odin 2 Mini? Yes, because I'm super duper picky when it comes to my panels, and indeed, the Odin 2 Mini improved upon it, but let's not forget that the Odin 2 was far from great on that aspect. In fact, it was one of the components for which I feel it hadn't received enough constructive criticism. To reiterate, the Odin 2 Mini improved on it, but barely. The motion is better, and that was my main thing, but any other advantages it has is much better on paper than in actual use. It's brighter, but for what? It's not HDR, I'm not feeling a wider color gamut, I am getting better contrast, but at the cost of blooming on solid and blacks. When dimming your panel, it's even worse. And I also have colors discoloration at the edge of the panel, much like the Pimax Portal did, though not as bad, as if the panel is sinking into the frame on the edges anyways. And it is for all those reasons that leaning on the absolute best aspect of the Odin 2 Mini makes this investment make sense for me, because the portability does make me want to play more with this device than I ever did with the Odin 2. Because it's easier to sit in a pocket and whip it out when I got a 15-minute to kill. If you are in any capacity happy with your Odin 2, do not buy this if you are not a collector. And if portability is in no way important to you, I would strongly recommend that you consider the Odin 2 and not be blinded by the fact that the Odin 2 Mini appears to be the shiny new toy. Yes, it is, but the harsh truth is that device should have made sense if released alongside the Odin 2, not a couple months later. It would have made sense for people to have opportunity to choose one or the other. The fact that they are months apart gives the impression that it's fun and new and cool, but I can't stress this enough. It does not justify to live above the Odin 2. It is not a vertical upgrade, it is an horizontal one, and therefore not an upgrade, but rather an option. Pick that option if that makes sense for you. Just don't go hoping that it is a vertical upgrade. I know I repeat myself, but I feel the need to insist on that one. It isn't. I love the format, and I would sincerely hope that whenever an Odin 3 exists, that AYNTEC has two SKUs, the Mini and the regular. And when we cross that bridge, I'll decide which one I'll get, but in no universe would I want to get both, knowing what I know now, if the next version is just a spec bump. And that is it for me, guys. Clef out. Peace.